Back to Stilettos on the Pavement. Our show is exclusively on Wimbley Digital, with our studio being right here in the capital, Jackson, Mississippi. Thank you guys so much for watching, for sharing with your friends, for subscribing to our YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate it. We know that God has so much more in store. We believe in our city, right? We believe in our loved ones and in ourselves. And today, I hope that after you watch this episode on Stilettos on the Pavement, you will believe in taking care of your mental well-being, right? And that brings me to my guest. I'm super excited today that she is here. I want to be a little bit more quiet today, not quite as vocal, because I want you to get everything you can from this special guest of mine, not only about who she is, how she became the woman that she is today, the super powerhouse right here in our city, and the organization that she works for, as the executive director. So I'm going to get right into it. And today I have my special guest with me, Sitaniel, right?
Did I say it right? Wimbley, yes.
Her name is much like Daniel, she keeps telling me. Now, I didn't want to mess it up. So I'm going to allow her this opportunity to share a little bit about herself with us. I've read her bio. I've spent some time with her. I already know how powerful she is. I just need you guys to know and understand. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Well, she said I'll tell you about myself. Long story short, I am a giver of hope. When people ask me what I do, that's always what I say. I give hope. Hope to the hopeless. So as a young child, my mother lived with bipolar schizophrenia. And with that, there comes a lot of different elements. Of course, she goes through episodes and she will get sick. So at one point I was in foster care, just realizing at my wonderful age that I actually was a foster child. Because at one point, when I got about first and second grade, when she would have a struggle, someone would swoop in from my family, and take me in. So I remember being in foster care with the family. But prior to that, before I had memories, I was actually in a real foster home. So second grade up, I went back with my mom, because her goal was always to be my mom. Right. And she loved me and cared for me all the way up until middle school. And we moved to North Carolina because we were having some trials and tribulations. And once we got there, she did great for about 3 years. And once she got there and she got on her journey, she had a little struggle. And I had to move again to my brother's home in California. So in 9th grade, I'm in California. 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, I came back to Mississippi. And from that, I graduated from high school, and I decided I never want to live in Mississippi because I'm not made to be here in my thought process. And I wanted to be Olivia Pope without the scandal. So I was going to be very well put together, have my cute little suits, and rule the world. Okay. However, I have learned on my journey that God had different plans for me. So at some point, I worked in banking for 8 or 9 years, and it never fit. Like, I was always on an uphill battle. I couldn't stay in the cubicle. I needed to talk to the people across the cubicle. I worked in bankruptcy, but processing the paperwork broke my heart, because sometimes there were processes where I was sending someone's home to foreclosure, and I just knew that didn't settle well with me. So I went home to be a stay-at-home mom, because clearly that's what I was supposed to do. And I realized I cannot focus and do nothing. So I went to a part-time job interview, and it was NAMI, Mississippi. And that's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is what I do now. I'm the executive director there. And what we do is we offer support for people who live with the mental illness, as well as support for the family members who are supporting someone with mental illness. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, I'm certain. But as far as me and my journey, I feel like that's where God has trained me to be from day one. by giving me my mother and making sure that I understood the journey, and I was able to stand at the counters when people were disrespectful to her, or I was able to be in the grocery store when people kind of ran down the other aisle because they were afraid of the crazy lady. So for me, my journey and my goal is to give hope to the hopeless and help people who live with a mental illness to understand it's okay not to be okay.
You just unfolded a lot of things there. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what I heard you say was, from a young age, you knew about your mom, right? And
Yes.
that you had family support that would come in and swoop you up and take care of you until, she was back on her feet and able to do it herself. And then I heard you mention that you were once, during your childhood, in the foster care system. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So let's stop kind of right there. When did you know that your mother not had a diagnosis? Because as children, I don't think we understand that terminology. But when did you know that your mom was different?
I've always known, because she's always had a conversation with me about her being the crazy lady. Because she would have episodes, and in her defense of her trying to make sure everyone knew that she was okay, she would cuss. Oh, she would give it to you now. What you don't do is cross my mother. Because when she thinks you're wrong, you're wrong. And it's not even, and to be honest, looking back on some of the situations, she was in the right. But no one was listening when she said it nice and calmly. So when she wanted you to hear her, you heard her.
Okay.
So then that grew the stigma of her being the crazy lady and the lady that pops off and, the extra that comes with mental health. So she always explained it to me. But it was, they think I have a mental illness, until about middle school when we moved and she understood, okay, I am struggling. Something is going on and I do need the medication. But when we moved to North Carolina, that's when the doctor started to listen to her about her own body and her own mental health. Because until then, they over-medicated her. So for me, I knew something was going on, because she always wanted me to understand, you need to know how to take care of yourself just in case mom's not here. Like, I could pay a bill, I could do a budget, all of these things. I couldn't see over the counters to pay the bills, but she would give me the bills, she would show me how to write the checks, and she would send me in and stand back and let me go in to do it, so I would know the process.
Right. She wanted to make sure that you were self-sufficient,
Yeah.
it sounds like.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So what, and I don't want to say the pressures of it, but I imagine that it was different, because I remember at your age, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't going in the stores and paying bills and things like that. So how did that affect you? It seems like on one part, it was very helpful because you understood the responsibilities of making sure that the lights were on and that there's food to eat and things of that nature. However, you're still a child. So talk to me about that.
And so for me, until I became an adult, it really didn't resonate what she was doing.
Okay.
But where I grew up, I saw other kids who didn't have lights, who didn't have phones, who didn't have TV. So in my mind, we had all of this. Right. So it never dawned on me that was a lot of responsibility for me to know how to do these things. And my thought process as a kid, it was, my mom is helping me to make sure I know how to have the things that I want and the things that I need, opposed to looking at these other kids who don't have TV, or they don't have a phone, or, just basic necessities that I thought at the time.
So was your mom able to work?
No. Okay. When she was younger, she worked. But once she got me, she always wanted a girl. There are 3 of us, everyone 7 years apart. Okay. So for me, she wanted to be present. Like, if nothing else, she's a mother. Even when she's going through an episode, she's a mother first and foremost. So she wanted to be at home with me, so she didn't work most of the time. The first job I remember was her doing setting for older people. She's a caregiver by nature. Okay. So she would go and stay with older ladies. I always had a bunch of older ladies that we'd be at their house.
And that's what my mom does today. And I always ask her, my mom did a lot in the last 2 years through hospice. Even though they would be at their own home, she would go and take care of them. And I said, Mom, how do you do that? Like, how do you? And she's like, Mika, I have children who are there for me, but the people who do not, I want to be there for them because everyone doesn't have a family support. So on my days, I would hope that somebody would care enough about me, and so that's how she does it. So shout out to all the caregivers, right? Yeah. I don't think that we mention them enough as a society because that takes a lot, especially if it's someone you know and love, because we're always thinking, I want them to be who they used to be, instead of let me deal with who they are today and be grateful and thankful that they're here today.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. So then what caught me too was the fact that you said you were in Mississippi, and then at one point you moved to California. My mom's from Los Angeles, so I know a lot about Cali. That is a big shock, like culture shock to the 10th power, right? So tell me a little bit about your experience being from here and then moving to California.
It was totally different, and personally, I would recommend anyone that thinks they want to live in Mississippi, try it outside for a little bit, because I started to see different cultures. I had friends that didn't look like me. I was able to visit their homes and see how they live and get a different aspect on things as far as culture and just living with different people and being able to accept the differences without having judgmental feelings or having biases against them. But there was also the idea of everything was so much faster.
Yeah, it was really fast. I remember my father came when we were in high school. I was in high school, and we went to this place called In-N-Out Burger because he wanted a hamburger. And he was standing at that counter, and he's looking like, what? He's like, Mika, where are they going? Why are they moving so fast?
Yes.
I was like, California, we just move fast. We got places to go. And so that made me, that opened my eyes to understand that I knew about Mississippi, but I never compared the speediness, if you will, of how things move so fast. And it's still that way to this very day. It's way more expensive. It's I love California, so I don't want anyone to misunderstand what I'm going to say, but it's different. Like here they ask, when I moved back here in 2013, they asked, who are your people and where are you from?
Right.
And in California, they asked, what do you drive and where do you work?
Yep.
They never asked me, did I know about God? Was I a believer? They never asked any of that. It was, where do you do for a living? Where do you work? And what do you drive? And I was just like, wow.
That's different.
Yeah, it's very different. So that was a big difference. So now you're back, right? We're going to go into commercial in a little bit, but you come back to Mississippi, and then what happens?
So we come back, and my mom is in a manic episode. So she's found her way. While I was in California for the year, I'm with my oldest brother. Okay. But my mom has managed to find her way from North Carolina back to Mississippi on a Greyhound bus. Okay. So older, I learned in the last few years, I said, well, Mom, how did you get back? She said, I knew where I wanted to be because she was going in and out. Like her thought processes weren't clear, but she knew she needed to get back to Mississippi because her home was here. Okay. So she said, I drove my car to the bus station. I bought a ticket and I left. And my family there, she didn't tell. They found her car at the bus station. And because I'm a child, a teen, 14, 15, nobody told me. So I just knew my mom had moved back, but in the process, she probably was a missing case for a while because she was traveling. She says when she came to consciousness, she remembered being in New York and two men, she said they looked like big football players, and they told them she was, out of it and couldn't figure out how to get where she was supposed to be. And they told them, we'll get her there. She says, I got on the bus. They made sure I was seated, and I can't remember anything past getting to Vicksburg. And she got to Vicksburg, and she couldn't get to Natchez. And she said she piddled around Vicksburg like a homeless person for a couple of days and was sleeping in one of the ditches. Okay. And she said she went into a Mexican restaurant. And every time we passed the place, she said something about it now. She went into there, and the man called the sheriff from Natchez, and he came and got her. Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you mentioned the word, and you said mantic. She was having a mantic episode. I know exactly what that means, and I experienced them. But for our viewers, before we go into commercial, can you please tell them what that is, in case they don't know?
Yeah. So what that means is that's when a person who's living with a mental illness is having kind of a time where they're just not able to control themselves. They're trying, but their mind is basically winning the battle. Right, The illness is taking over, and the illness is not allowing them to control it or slow down. And that's where you see the people on the news that are walking down the street with no clothes on. Right. That's where you and your loved one are arguing, and things are happening that they don't want to happen, but they can't control it.
Right. And then sometimes, and I'll speak for myself, not for your mom or anyone else, but what you hear and think is your reality, even though it's not really happening and it's not real. But in those moments, oh, this is real as my hand in my face. So we'll talk about that a little bit when we come back. We're going to go to a break in just a moment. This is Tameka, Garrett with Stilettos on the Pavement, exclusively on We Believe Digital, right here in the capital, Jackson, Mississippi. And I am with my guest today, and we're going to come back after this break and talk a little bit more about who she is and the organization NAMI of Mississippi, who she works for as the executive director. And NAMI is the National Alliance for Mental Illness. We'll see you in a minute. Thank you for watching.
Advertise on WeBelieve.global, a brand new digital media platform. Share your brand with our audience on our mini global live stream TV broadcast and over the radio. For more info, visit WeBelieve.global or call 800-492-5186, option 1.
Hey you guys, welcome back. It's Tameka again, and I'm here with my guest Sitaniel from NAMI, Mississippi. I hope that you've been watching, but if you haven't, you've missed anything, please go back and watch the beginning of this so you'll understand where this conversation is going from here on to the end of it, okay? So now we're talking about your mom, and we defined mantic, and then you said it was later in life that you realized you were in the foster system, correct?
Yes.
Was there any other systems that maybe later on in life you learned that you were a part of?
So, in the state of Mississippi, because of my mom's illness, I've been a part of the foster system. We have had some crisis intervention teams, which is where the officers come out and try to help make sure that they de-escalate situations. The juvenile justice system, because you have to go through juvenile justice to get into the foster system.
Okay. I didn't know that.
I think it's juvenile justice. Yeah, because we went before court for them to take custody for the time being. So I think so. I can't think of any more, but I'm sure in my life I realized, oh, that's what that was. We did, but I'll tell you what's funny. At one point, my mom did a NAMI class. She did peer-to-peer, and she was certified. And I didn't learn about her doing the class until I started working for NAMI. And she dug out this certificate from 1920. And she was like, I'm certified.
That's right. I got my
certification. Which is hilarious because I didn't realize NAMI was a thing at the time as an adult. But she did the class when I was a child, and she made me remember. She said, do you remember going to this house? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, that's what I was doing. We were going to NAMI classes.
And those classes are really important. It's life-changing for yourself and those that you are giving hope to. Yes. So can you tell people what that is for those who don't know what the peer-to-peer is?
So peer-to-peer is a 8-week class, and what it does is it teaches an individual who lives with mental illness how to be in recovery. It helps you to make a plan just in case something comes up, because there will be hiccups, of what to do when there are those hiccups. It helps you to understand how to let others know that you may have a hiccup coming, and let them know what to do and how to handle the hiccup. Because we talked about individuals being manic. Well, if you don't realize someone is manic and you think they're just being rude or mean, then it hurts your feelings and it kind of turns you off towards that person. But they can't help what they can't change about them. So that's what peer-to-peer does. Now, our sister class to that is family to family. And family to family teaches you how to be a family member and support that individual once you realize they do live with the mental illness and that they do need your support. So those are 2 classes, and both of them are 8 weeks, and both of them give you skills And it talks about self-care in both of them as well, which is really a big deal, especially if you're a family member. Because if you're taking care of a loved one, regardless of what the illness is, you know that it weighs on you heavily. So
it does. And so I think that I didn't know for a long time that you guys offered the family to family. And so for those of you who are listening or watching, I wish you would do some research and find out, especially if, like you stated, that if you have someone in your family, a loved one, or, you know, a close friend, it will help you to understand them a little bit more. And sometimes people, I don't think they know how to be there for you, and sometimes just your presence speaks volumes without you even saying anything. What are your thoughts about that?
I totally believe that. Statistically, 1 in 5 live with a mental illness. So if you think a person is struggling mentally, they probably are. And that's 1 in 5 that are not diagnosed. That's 1 in 5 that are diagnosed. So imagine how many people are out there not diagnosed and just struggling through. It takes, for the average person, about 10 years for them to go into a doctor's office and get a diagnosis. Well, in that 10 years, family to family teaches you how to be their support. And you being their support is honestly going to change the outcome of what they have going on, because support is important for everyone.
It is. And so many times, I think we talk about this a lot as African American or women of color. A lot of times it's the hush hush, it's the secret, or it's the she's or he's crazy. And they're not crazy. There's just an imbalance. And there's help to be had if the person will recognize it. Now, I will say that there are a lot of people that are afraid to find out what is wrong with them. They know something is wrong, but they don't want to get the diagnosis. They don't want to hear those words.
Yeah. And that's hard. I mean, once you hear the words, you have to face it. And it's so hard, even as parents and as loved ones, just to hear that you're not perfect, or the child that you gave birth to is not perfect, or your brother or your sister's not perfect. It's hard.
Yeah.
And to get the diagnosis, you have to realize it's okay to struggle. But if you don't know what's wrong, how are you gonna fix it?
Right, and it can only get worse. So
yes.
I know for me, I was like, there's nothing wrong, and people are like, oh, that's just, Tameka's just like that. Well, there was a reason I was like that, and until a long time, I finally went, and then I had a manic episode, and I was up for like 3 days straight. I was delirious is what was happening. And so for me, I couldn't determine what was reality and what wasn't. I remember my sister telling me, Mika, do you realize this is what you did yesterday? And I was like, no, I didn't.
Not at all.
I said, no, Toya, I didn't do that. And I just broke down crying because I was so out of character for me. But then when I was up for that 3rd day, I would hallucinate because I hadn't gotten any sleep, and I couldn't force myself to sleep even though I tried. And my mom came over and she was like, Mika, you've got to see a doctor. And so that was what I said, okay, something is wrong. And I was brave enough to face it and say, let's find out what's going on. And then that's how I found out. So, my heart just goes out. I know it can be a scary thing, and I'm talking to you guys directly, but I know that it could be scary to find out, but there's so much help and programs and support once you do. And the medication is not for everybody. It does help. There are things you could do that's natural. Walking helped me a great deal. And I thought, what? Walking just 30 minutes a day? But I'm telling you, and those 30 minutes a day turned into 5 miles 6 days a week. And I got addicted to it. And the weight started coming off, and my mind started slowing down. And so what are some of the things that you think allows people to not just deal with it, but allows them to be themselves?
There's a lot, and everybody is different. That's the thing. You have to find your own plan. Individualized plans are important, and that's what our whole system is moving to, because what may work for the goose may not be good for the gander.
Right, that's true.
And what we have to realize is mental health symptoms usually show up between 14 and 24. Okay. That's when the child is a child. And that's when you're going through life. So a lot of times you're still under your parents' roof, and they see something, but they turn away, and it has to go into what our community calls nervous breakdown.
Right.
And that when you get to a nervous breakdown, you are at the back end of the worst.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. And
then they want to, well, not so much in California, but in Mississippi, they just want to pray, pray, pray. Don't get me wrong. Praying is good. Prayer changes things. God is awesome at what he does. I promise you. However, it is my belief that God also gives us tools and resources for us to be better. And so you just can't pray the thing away. You have to face it.
Yeah, because there are different things. Like you said, walking, talk therapy. Medication, and all medication is not for everybody, and sometimes it's too strong.
A lot of times, and I'm telling you, it's the trickiest thing about medication is that trusting somebody to know you, because with the medications, the doctors do the very best they can, but it's trial and error. So your dosage could be whatever the medication is. It could be too low or it could be too high, and you just really paying attention to your body and how you're responding to that, even with the side effects. Just making sure that you know yourself, or you entrust somebody to say, hey, I started this new medication. I need you to watch me over this next week or so to see what's going on.
And see, personally, I recommend both, because two things are going to happen. Either that person's going to see something different than you see, or you both are going to see the same thing. And if you decide to go in and tell your doctor, okay, this is a great medication, but I think it's too strong, and your doctor doesn't listen, you got a partner that saw the same thing that you saw, that can validate it for you. So you bring in your second set of ears and eyes and say, hey, they saw the same thing I saw.
That's good.
And make sure, because stigma's real. It happens. My mom is 76. She had me in her older age. But there are times when I have to go to the doctor and speak for her because of the stigma surrounding her mental health.
Yeah.
And she may be telling the doctor, something's wrong here, and they don't hear her. And then I say, sir, did you note that she said this is happening? And then they hear me.
Yeah. Because there's nothing wrong with you.
Exactly. So sometimes what I do with my mom is, if there's something important on the way there, I say, okay, what am I saying for you today? And she'll tell me. And then when I get in, she'll say it. And if I felt they took it, then I pass it on. If I didn't feel they took it, then I speak up for her because of the stigma. And then sometimes you have to find the right doctor, therapist,
that part,
the right fit. Because I've been to therapy. I mean, hey,
it's a good thing.
Everybody needs a little tune-up. And the easiest way to describe therapy, what they told me, is it's a chalkboard. You tell me what's going on inside, and I give it back to you. And we make a plan. I, as a therapist, I'm not a therapist, but they said I, as a therapist, will help you make a plan to get wherever your goal is that you're wanting to go.
Right. And when you have a good one, you have given them your plan yourself. You just didn't know.
You didn't know.
And they'll just read it. They'll say it back to you where it makes sense to you, and you come up with a plan that works for you.
Yeah.
That's true. And I would tell anybody, it is okay to say this therapist isn't for me, or this counselor isn't for me, this group session doesn't work for me, because you have to find, it's like a relationship. Every relationship doesn't work at first. You have to work it. You have to find out what's the best for everybody involved. I have fired plenty of counselors, specifically when I got here, because they were reading the Bible scriptures to me, and I was like, I go to church for that. I didn't come here for that. I didn't come here for you to dissect certain things of my life that I've shared with you in confidentiality, just to hear Bible scriptures. So if they're not working for you, get rid of them and continue to find. Don't give up and say, oh, it's just not for me. That person or that group may not have been for you, but there is somebody out here that can help you.
Yeah, your people are out here. I mean, I talk to people all the time, and they're looking for their people. And I say, oh, I know someone who reminds me of what you're talking about, and we can connect the dots. But you're not going to be confident. You're not going to be comfortable unless you find your people. And your therapist has to be your person. They have to get you. And if they don't get you, it's not going to work out.
Right. And I had two. I had one lady who was African American, and she was really good. But I had this young girl who was Caucasian. She was all of early 20s, right? But she gave me homework and assignments, and she looked at life completely different than I did. So that was helpful for me. And so I kept both of them until recently when I moved. But just to let you guys know that, what we're saying is you have to find, as you stated, your people. And if you keep looking, do not give up, you will find them. Yeah. So how was your mom able to do that for herself?
She closed up. She doesn't find, so she has a select few people that knew about her illness, and they had their own struggles. So there were 3 that I can remember and one of them passed recently. But they did life. When things got hard, she'd be on the phone with them. And thinking back on it, they were her people. They were her little support group. Right. And she could say anything she wanted or how she felt, and they didn't judge her because they knew that's real. When she says she had this feeling, it was real. I'm not going to judge her because I've been there. Right. And that's what NAMI provides. People who've been there that don't judge you. Everything is pure lead. And they're your people.
Right. And that's what I was going to say on those calls with Latasha and the other people. You always feel like, whew, I'm glad I was able to say that how I needed to say it. Not that I have to say something and it has to be scripted or, you know, it has to come out a certain way. And so that is such a good feeling for I have group every Wednesday, and in that group, it's such a great thing. We don't see each other outside of that group. I don't know where they live, or I don't even know their last names, and that doesn't matter. But we're there for an hour every week, and we just release whatever it is, however we feel the need to do so.
Yes, and see, NAMI provides that no charge. You can go to NAMIMS.org and go to our calendar and find out where our support groups are. And what those do is it brings a group of people in that are either peers, everyone living with the mental illness, or family members, everyone that's a family member supporting someone. And you get to say what you need.
Right.
If your family member is driving every nerve you own,
every last one,
everyone, you can't say that and not feel guilty all the time because you know they're struggling. But if you get in that support group and someone else says it, then you realize it's okay to be a little tired. Yeah. It's okay to be a little frustrated because that's the lay of the land. And when someone else says it, it helps you to move on through what you're going through. So that's why I always recommend. And even I can't go into a peer support group because it's closed. Everyone there, we don't allow students there. We don't allow anyone that's from outside because we want to make sure that group is safe.
Right.
And that the individuals in that group feel like they can speak without hesitation.
Right, because if they don't, they definitely will miss the opportunity to be better.
Yes.
To be okay with not being okay today.
Exactly.
So when we come back from this next commercial break, I want to talk about the things that NAMI has coming up, the conference that you have. There's so many different things. I'm telling you guys, make sure that you go to their website to look at the programs and services because I was wild when I first went. And we'll talk about it when we come back. See you in a second.
COVID's pioneering coronavirus protocol firm, SGE COVID Solutions, is paving the way forward for a safer city government, delivering cutting-edge biosecurity and biosafety protocols which have been developed internationally by top virologists and scientists, using an all-natural cleaning solution that kills COVID-19 on contact like no other product on the international market. Let SGE COVID Solutions provide innovative, rapid facilities testing and world-class, state-of-the-art bio-risk safety protocols for all of your coronavirus needs.
Welcome back, you guys. And so we're going to continue on this conversation. And again, please go and look up NAMI Mississippi. What exactly is the website? So I don't give them the wrong one.
It's www.namims.org, and that's NAMIMS.org.
Okay, so you guys go to that website, check it out, find out all the resources. And I'm not sure if you heard her when she said it's free. That means $0.00, no charge. Why wouldn't you? And if you didn't know, you know today. So if it's not something that you need, a service or program, definitely share that with as many people as you can. And so I want to touch on something really fast here. It's interesting to me when Hollywood stars were unfortunately committing suicide, right? Yeah. Then it was this big push for everyone to find out about mental health, and they were talking about it on the commercials. They were talking about it everywhere you went, right?
Yeah.
It was the dinner conversations for so many people. Then you have nothing for such a long period of time. Well, I want to tell you guys, just because stars are not you're not hearing about them, they're still dealing with that. Not only are they the actors and the actresses and artists, there's real life people that are sitting in your church role that are working with you, whether you're working virtually or you're still face to face inside of a building. I want us to be more concerned about those people that we can actually touch and feel, and we see behaviors all the time, versus I never met Robin in my life. My heart went out to him and his family, but I never met the man in real life.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about that?
So for that, I think it takes digging deep and having empathy, because when you walk in and you say, and I'll give you an example. I just know you from brief conversation, but I know your demeanor most of the time. If I talk to you and your demeanor is different, I know something's going on, but I don't talk to you often. And it takes being able to just stop and listen, have empathy.
You have to care.
And care. That's the thing. You have to show that you care. And just saying, are you okay? And being ready to hear the conversation. And when someone says, yeah, I'm fine. No, I have noticed this is going on. What's happening? Is there anything I can do? And being there for a person. And sometimes it just takes being in the room. So they know that they're struggling, and you acknowledge they're struggling, but you're wanting to help, and you're waiting for them to tell you how to help.
Right. I almost got choked up about it, because so often, and I as women, we're always, girl, how you doing? Oh, I'm fine. And now if you know this lady, if you know this person, you understand when she says fine in this tone, or when she says fine this way and does this, it's a lie, right?
Yeah.
So you have to care enough to really watch the demeanor and behaviors of your friends. If they're your friends, you want to do that and tell them that, no, it's me. It's okay for you to say, today is not a good day.
Right.
You know, and then let me figure out how I can assist you in making today a better day for you. I'm definitely glad that you brought that up, because so many times we just zoom by people and we are not paying attention.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, because we don't notice we're doing it. Right. So you have to actively say to yourself, because at the end of the day, you have your own life, you have your own struggles, you have your own issues going on. But it's that knowing inside of yourself, something's up. And sometimes, and it's strange, the more you do it, the more you notice it. Because sometimes I pass perfect strangers, and I can feel it. It's like, this person's having a bad day. And some days it just takes a smile. And I feel better when I smile at them and they smile back. Or some days it's giving the person at the McDonald's window some grace. Because you don't know how they got there. You don't know if this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. And we have to go through the world thinking of it that way, because stars struggle and they get all this attention, but real people struggle. The McDonald's lady may be struggling and she's not getting attention, and then furthermore, she may not even be getting help, but she's dealing with it. And I my background is operations and HR and retail and restaurant. So restaurant, wow, man, we get it. We get it. You know, unfortunately, I was reading something the other day, and it said that a lady killed 2 young people working at a Subway. I believe it was in Atlanta, because they had too much mayo on her sandwiches, too much mayonnaise. Yeah. So their lives are gone because of mayo. Yeah. And it seems like, what? Or how? That doesn't even make sense. But how did she get there? Right. And it's always what brought this person to this point. When you see these idiotic things that happen on TV, or things that make you go, why? You go, what brought this person to this point? How? And this is what I think about, especially with children. It's like, how could this have been prevented years ago? Because a lot of times, it doesn't start when they're adults. Absolutely, it starts way back when someone didn't see something.
And it builds up, and you're not paying attention, or you're ignoring the signs.
You just, families a lot of times just accept it. Because the lady didn't go in and just snap that day. I'm sure she snapped on a bunch of people before she got there. And no one just stopped and said, what's up? Hey, right. You know, no one just was able to say, wait a minute, what's going on with you today? And her be comfortable enough to say, girl, let me tell you. Right. And sometimes they just need to hear it. Someone just needs to be able to say, girl, let me tell you. Because if they don't have a therapist, somebody's got to get it out.
Right. And they have to know. I remember dating someone, and we were in front of Next Level, and I was like, this is happening to me, this is happening to me. And she was like, you were fine a minute ago. I said, I need to go to the doctor, like right now. And she kind of like laughed it off. And I was thinking, this girl has no clue. Like, she knows that I have, these episodes of anxiety and depression, but I understood then that she didn't get it, and she didn't care enough to try to understand. So I took myself to the doctor. But when you know your body, you know when you need to go get some help immediately, or you can wait till tomorrow. I don't want to have you go without talking about some of the things that NAMI has coming up. And you mentioned, is it 988?
Yes, so that is something that's great. I'm so excited about 988. It is coming July 16th. And it's
right around the corner.
Right. It's the national system that's the sister system to 911. But it's for mental health.
Wait a minute.
Yes. So on July the 16th, if you think someone's struggling with mental health, you see someone out and they're acting neurotic, and instead of calling the police, instead of dialing 911, dial 988, and a trained professional will answer and make sure the right person comes to get the help.
Now, is this all over the world or specifically
United
in
States?
Mississippi? Okay, so 988. You guys hear that? 988. Now, don't be calling the number, just to be calling it, but specifically if you are concerned with their well-being, correct?
With their well-being, yes.
Then you can call 988, and it's all over the world, not just in the state of Mississippi.
Yes, all over the nation.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and that's going to help a lot, because a lot of times we look at our officers and they go, our officers aren't handling this right. Well, they're not trained to be mental health professionals. They're trained to be officers. So
and they're really,
struggling,
concerned for their own life in those moments.
Yeah, because you can't imagine, and I deal with crisis intervention teams. I try to go in and talk to officers and talk to the professionals that's training them to be training leaders for crisis intervention. And I've realized a lot of them are struggling, because when you knock on a door as an officer, you don't know if that's your last knock or not. So imagine living like that every day, constantly. So they're doing their best, but 988 will make sure that the right person comes. 988 will make sure that you get the help you need, and then there's systems in place after. And then if you're not, ready to call 988 because it's not that bad, you can text NAMI, the word NAMI, to 741-741, and someone will text back and forth with you. Now, that's a big deal, too, because the young adults, they don't want to call. They're never in a crisis,
right.
But they'll text, and that person can kind of help them to understand what's going on, how to get help, let them know if they really need to talk to someone more than just a friend or just a text line.
And sometimes it helps that it's a complete stranger.
It does.
So you don't have to worry about, is my mom going to find out, or if my dad's going to, go off on me when I get home, whatever the case may be. So I was reading something, and it talked about, it said hope through the storm or something about a conference you guys have coming up in September.
Yes. Now that is the trauma conference.
Okay.
And that's a conference that's done by, we kind of partner to do that conference, but it talks and leads individuals and teaches them about trauma. And you can find more information on that at our NAMI MS website. Okay. And then we have our Minority Mental Health Conference coming up in July. It's July 28th. This year we're going to do one day, and we're going to talk about topics that kind of touch minorities more than others when it comes to mental health, because we all know minorities kind of pretend just, it doesn't happen in our community, but it does.
Right.
So, yeah.
So when is that, and where is that conference?
That one is virtual. Actually, both of them are virtual, and you can go to Eventbrite and search for NAMI, and they'll pop up. And all of our NAMI classes will pop up.
So do me a favor, look into that calendar and tell them where they can go.
So you can go to eventbrite.com, and then in your search bar, go NAMI Mississippi. And anything that is NAMI related, classes, support groups, conferences, anything that we're hosting will pop up on your screen. And then you just click register. There's no fee for most of our services and most of our programs. And come on in and be a part of what we're doing.
Yeah, that is amazing, like seriously, because people are not going out, as much as before, right? And then even with the pandemic, I can imagine, I don't have proof or stats, but I imagine that the number of those, challenged with any type of mental diagnosis went up. Did it not?
Anxiety and depression statistically have gone up, and in youth and young adults, it has gone way up, because they've been at home for 2 years.
I was going to say, and they're not used to that. They need interaction and people and playgrounds and things like that.
Yes, and now they have to go back into the classroom And I don't know about you all, but my kids were afraid of other people because they may have the Rona. And they didn't, like, it just didn't sit well. The idea of we're not necessarily safe, but we have to go back.
Yeah.
All of that is combined and whatever may have already been there. So anxiety and depression are very high right now.
They are. And it's not, well, I don't know if interesting is the word that I want to use, but I'm just thinking, like, parents, they weren't used to being home with their children all day. So, now I think they have a little bit more respect for those educators,
Yes.
because they're with their children all day. And so now, I read one time it said the sales in liquor and wine had gone up. And I was thinking of parents over there drinking.
They were coping.
They was trying to figure out how to get Johnny and Billy to learn,
Yes.
And then I was watching my nieces one time, and they are 12 now. But they were at my house. I went upstairs, and Lord and behold, one of them was asleep. The other one was watching her screen, but not doing any homework. And I was like, hey, you guys come downstairs. And this is one day, right? You guys come downstairs. Let's put this on the big screen, and let's learn something. And then let's do something fun when it's over.
Yeah.
But I know they have a difficult time learning for hours on end when it's just you and a computer and no one else is there to watch them.
I have a difficult time learning.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
I mean, imagine if you're on Zoom all day long, because a lot of us are. We're starting to get Zoom bored, basically.
Zoomed out.
And your kids had to be on there.
Yeah, that was too long.
It was a long day for them. And one thing as a parent, you learn more about your kid during that time frame than any other time.
You did.
And if you saw something or you thought you saw something, the time is now to act on it. Talk to them. Because the kid, to be honest, the next generation is open. I love talking to young adults because they're going to tell you exactly how they feel and what they know.
You know what I would like, because I know that we're going to run out of time soon, but I would like you to come back. And if we could get some young adults to talk about this, that would be super dope. Yeah. Because I always want to hear their side, and it's important for everyone else to hear them too. You can't say, well, my kid's facing this or that and this is how they feel. You don't know how they feel, but they can tell us exactly how they feel, and then we're able to learn from them, grow from them, and get them the help and support that they so desperately need and deserve.
Yes. And we have Open Up Mississippi. That is a part of NAMI, but it's for young adults. So 16 to 26, they have their own little section where they lead and they guide and they teach us what they want us to know.
They need to come on the show.
We're going to get...
You said Open Mississippi?
Open Up Mississippi. And they have a website. So it's www.openupmississippi.com. Okay. And you'll see what they're doing. They made everything on the website down to the colors of the logo. It's all young adults that did it.
That's awesome. That's really good. And our young adults are so innovative, and so there is no box for them. They're just like, let's try this, let's do this. And I think that from what I see, they are more open to people having different ideas and speaking different languages, and everyone not being a carbon copy of everybody else, right? So when you come back soon, right, and I'm talking about in a next couple of weeks, I want to have them on the show. Okay. You guys, this has been fast, right? We've run out of time already, but thank you so much for being my guest today. I've learned a lot, as I always do, talking to you. And thank you guys for watching. We will see you soon. Be safe and take care of yourself. Have a good evening.
Advertise on WeBelieve.global, a brand new digital media platform. Share your brand with our audience on our many global live stream TV broadcasts and over the radio. For more info, visit WeBelieve.global or call 800-492-5186, option 1.